Good afternoon, Dr. Seetharaman.
Good afternoon.
Today on the Knowledge Management Forum, we would like to focus on the IMF Spring Meeting, which is to be held from 11th to 13th of April in Washington.
That's right.
As well as on other major developments impacting the global economy. Could you tell us what is the key agenda for the IMF meeting?
Very important is to bring in financial stability in the world, number one. Number two, the transition of the current situations to normalcy. How exactly we will restore overall normalcy in the world economy. How do we eliminate the extreme poverty and also ensure food security for the world. Ensuring the emerging markets deceleration, how do we bring it back into track, because they produce the maximum incremental growth. And how do we, of late you have seen there's a degenerations, how do we fix them? Advanced economies, how do we ensure fiscal consolidation and gross debt to decade GDP goes in order? How do we minimize the debt for the advanced economies? And again, ensuring common man's interest in total terms. How exactly the emerging markets are going to perform, and how we need to make sure emerging market and developed world are going to resolve the overall financial growth, global growth in substance. And last but not least, how exactly we are going to look at the supervisory norm, light switch regulations, and also making sure re-regulations gets overall value for global governance.
Could we have your insights on the developments in the global economy?
Development in the global economy twofold. One is the old development, another new development. Old development, still we have outstanding issues. The financial stability, regulatory alignment should be fixed. We haven't completed G20 decisions, not been fully executed. That's one thing. Second, Basel III executions, how far it has been progressively timed out, how exactly the compliance structure is going to happen. Number three, common man's protections, how exactly it's going to give gross welfare to the mass. The new development is the current changes in the global dynamics. High volatile market, financial markets are nothing but gambling grounds. How are we going to fix this issue? How are we going to bring in the real growth? How we are going to ensure the global unemployment issues, especially in the advanced economies, how we are going to fix it? How we are going to also create alternates to fossil fuels, renewables, and how exactly we are going to have monetary policy and economic policy alignment. These are the new developments which we need to identify and make it, mapping the risk is the regulatory alignment. Mapping the risk is a global governance requirement as on date.
Dr. Seetharaman, what are the roadblocks that you see on the way to global recovery?
Roadblocks are many. We have reasons to believe we haven't fixed the solvency and sovereign crisis globally. We haven't fixed the fiscal consolidation issue in the emerging markets, inflation in certain pockets of the emerging markets, and the growth is less than the inflation. That's a major concern. People are suffering in certain parts of the world, even though growth is there. And again, fixing the real interest rates in the developed world is very important, because how do we inflate the world in normalcy? What's going to happen? The quantitative tapering, if it is going to be contained, if we in terms of bond buying programs on both long-term treasuries as well as housing mortgage securities, if we start cutting down, what will be the implications? These are to be aligned in substance to have a global growth in real order.
What are the reforms recommended to speed up growth?
Reforms recommended are many. One is we have to bring in fiscal consolidation. Number two, policy alignment in terms of monetary accommodation as well as the fiscal consolidation alignment. Number three, we need to bring in a clear commitment for reduction of debt in each countries where there is excessive spending. We also have to necessarily contain the inflation in the emerging markets, inflate the economies where grossly under technically operating on account of the quantitative easing. We also have to necessarily look at the G20 decision execution in fast tracks, universal standard in terms of accounting, valuation, securitization.
Could we have your insights on real interest rates?
Real interest rate is a very important aspect. If you look at the bigger picture, the real interest rate in the world today is negative. Now, generally, if the interest rate and inflations are intertwined, if there's no inflation, now for example, if the current market condition is 0.33 is the real interest rate. 2008 to 2013, this is 0.33. 1 to 7, if you look at it, it is in a way it is 3%. Before that, it's over 5%. So these are long-term, 10-year buying programs. What interest rates you will pay is what we are trying to calculate. But you have to necessarily understand, if this is not in order, inflation is not coming up, interest rate is not going up in real order, money value becomes marginalized, and then you will not have a real investments. You have fixed income securities, you have equities. What happened to the pension funds? If your interest rate is so low, putting in fixed deposits, you as a pensioner, would you like it? That's the issue. And again, if you go for long-term investments in equities, could there be a degeneration? How can you destabilize the long-term securities? So you are taking serious risk. So interest rate element is important to be measured and managed for certain. It has got wider implication in real order.
What are the implications you foresee from this real interest scenario?
See, the monetary policy and fiscal policy has played a role in the past. Only monetary accommodative policy has been the change now. That these are tools, not the end by itself. Now, real interest rate will have no significance or consequence if the interest rates, inflation are not accommodated. To contain inflation, you need to have increase in interest rates. To inflate, you need to make sure that interest rates are lower. These are nuances. Now, if you look at the bigger picture, the interest rates is also not one, it's not only decided by one factor, that's monetary policy. Your government expenditure, your receipts and payments, your fiscal procurement is equally, will be importing inflation. If you're importing oil, for example, a significant price of oil quantities as well as the price is going up, then you will be importing inflation. So real interest rates has got to be degenerated in substance. Now, if you look at pension funds, you have an issue. If you look at the salary earners who are investing in the long-term securities, you have an interest issue. You have, again, those who want secured methodology, those who want secured interest for recurring revenues expenditure, then you have an issue. So interest rate has got wider implication in real order, and it has to be measured and managed and controlled for long-term prosperity of one and all.
Thank you for your insights, Dr. Seetharaman.
My pleasure.